Have you ever trusted the wrong person in your personal life? I bet you did. Like, it happened to all of us so many times in our lives that we trust the wrong person. And what is the connection to the issue of trusting people in our spiritual journey? Like, trusting the wrong people in our spiritual journey can also be really challenging. Like, outside of relationships, romantic relationships or friendship relationships, like specifically for your spiritual journey, when everything starts to happen, everything starts to change, what are the issues with trusting the wrong people? What can be the harm? What can happen? What are these people? How can we track them? How can we see them? How can we manage to not fall into the trap and trust the wrong person and believe the right things? How can we do that? Like, all these things we're going to talk about in this video, because it's a really, really important topic, and it did affect my life in the past a lot and still does, of course. It's a learning process, but it's really important. And I know how it can be when we are open, but also vulnerable and confused. We want to look for answers. We want to see what is right, because everything is so confused in a spiritual awakening, especially in the beginning. And we are really confused and what is going on, and we start to having the need of asking people, and we want to have answers, we want to have guidance, we want to have support. And how can we do that in this chaotic world, in this crazy world, where especially there is money to be made with the whole spirituality and the whole thing with finding God, finding yourself. There's like industries behind that. So, and to consider that, we always have to come back to a true inner understanding. Who can I trust on my spiritual journey? And this video is all about that. And I wish you a nice time listening. So if you are somebody like me, I'm sure you trusted along your lifetime many people. They weren't that good for you. And how do we know, like, what is even the definition of trust? What is trust? What does it mean? So trust, I was asking the Cambridge Dictionary, trust is to believe somebody is good, somebody or something is good, and does not harm you or does not want to harm you. Or believing something is right and reliable, like safe and reliable. These are the kind of things that we look for when we think about if somebody trustworthy or not. And in our spiritual journey, it can be really tricky. Why? Because especially in the beginning, when I remember for me, everything was so upside down. I did not know what is going on. The whole, your whole worldview changes, you question everything, your friendships, your life, how you live it, the stuff you learned, all the concepts that you learned, your job, like everything, you question everything. So it can be really tricky on the way to spiritual awakening to follow your own path and not get like sidetracked or somebody's like influencing you. And because there's so much also business in this kind of field. There's business, people wanting to sell you stuff, they want to tell you stuff. And of course, mostly they probably don't mean anything bad. They're just having their own view of everything and they're just trying to put that on you. But sometimes, and this I think is how like these sects and cults are successful, because they take people who are vulnerable and looking for answers, looking for support and guidance, and take them into their own system or in their own like money-making machinery. I don't know however you want to call it. I don't know the definition of a sect, but I think of a cult. I think one of the main spots is there's like one figure in the middle and everybody's like, admiring them like a god person. I think that's the how you can spot a cult. But anyway, why is it so important to trust the right people? So in the beginning of the spiritual journey, we are really open and we have no idea what's going on. So we read all these topics on new trust, like Dark Night of the Soul, spiritual awakening, the levels of consciousness we raise from like shame, anger, up to pride, courage, and then it goes like peace and love and all these kind of things. All this new concept or letting go, wu wei, like Zen, like this whole universe opening up for you with new stuff, with new concepts and new ideas and everything. And you read things and you listen to things, and what can you trust? How do you know? This is really tricky in the beginning, and then you're looking for answers. You start to, maybe you want to go to a retreat, or you buy a book and you talk to people, and you get new information in, but then you don't know, it kind of feels right, but is it right? And you kind of go along this path, and it's like, with religion, it's a really sensitive subject, that people who are starting to look for answers and starting to look for themselves, for their true inner being and all this kind of thing, they're really easily influenced. So somebody, it can be really easily influenced who's just had this experience of the ego kind of breaking away, and everything kind of breaks away. And somebody can come and like, yeah, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this. And a person's like, okay, I don't know, maybe. And especially in the beginning, when you kind of leave your own life, your old life, you want to leave your own old life behind. New figures in this new kind of the vibe of spirituality and divinity and all these things, they look really like shiny, amazing people. And you're like, oh my God, they must have all the answers and they have everything together, and they seem to be so knowledgeable and they're so wise and everything like that. And you kind of start to following them. But you should be really like careful who you follow and who you really taking advice. And yeah, what are the people that can like be wrong influence? So I don't know, for example, you go to this journey and you're finding a guru or a mentor, and the issue is they just projecting their own stuff on you. Like, they cannot, first of all, they don't know your whole story. They don't know the inside you, like what all your experiences are, what have you, your past, everything like that. They project their own stuff onto your life. And this is where it already gets distorted. So, but we're looking for answers. We're looking for companionship and support. So this is like the first thing, like gurus, mentors can be misleading. Then of course, well-meaning friends, like people who are, you have your old friends, and then out of a sudden you change. And this makes them kind of scared because they don't want to lose you, or they're worried. But if I don't know how to talk, like if these are people of this world, of the normal world, they cannot understand. Of course they are afraid to lose you, because that's also likely what's going to happen. But anyway, you can still keep some friends, but the most of the friends you're going to lose because it's not working out anymore. So, and yeah, I will make an example later of this kind of friends, and how this influence cannot be the best one. I will make some examples later of this kind of people. What else? Like family members. skeptical family members. They're going to be like, they're going to, what are you doing there? What are you reading? Are you part of a cult now? Are you losing your mind? Maybe it's a bit crazy what's going on with you. Maybe you took too much drugs. Maybe you, they don't understand, so they question it, and also they're afraid to lose you, or to that the relationship, how it was, cannot work out anymore. Because usually everybody in any relationship, there's like two parts. Everybody gets something out of the relationship. And if you start to change and you start to kind of breaking the unspoken contract of the relationship, then the other party gets a little bit freaked out, like, oh, what's going to happen? I'm going to lose this person, or this kind of supply they maybe gave me. It does not have to be like full-grown toxic, but many relationships are not as good for us as we maybe think, and we have to let go of that. But that's another story. So these family members, and you get this kind of influence from all sides. And because it's all new to you, and you're like, oh, I was reading this book about, for example, Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. I was reading this book, and it's about the present moment and how time does not exist, and everything happens now, and the whole power we have is now, not yesterday or tomorrow and whenever. It's all in our mind, self-created, and all this kind of stuff. So in the beginning, you're really confused, and because it's shaking your. We have to understand the magnitude of the experience. It completely shatters your whole worldview. Like you think in the beginning, everything you ever believed and everything you ever kind of thought was true is maybe not true. You're gonna be like, okay. And it is really an important part of the journey to find your own strength and to find your own guidance system. And it's really, in our world, it's really confused and distorted because we're never asked so much to rely on ourselves. We always have these companionships and friends and stuff we surround ourselves with. And it's really important to find our inner strength and our inner compass to not lose the track we are on. And yeah, because in the beginning you're so open and asking for answers, and yeah, there's like an example I can tell from my life, or even so I have three examples actually. So just in the beginning of my spiritual awakening, I think it was 2018, I was still working as a waitress, and for a few years already I had this nagging feeling of I'm not fulfilling my potential. It's not, oh my God, I'm not living to my potential at all. I'm working as a waitress, I'm serving like people who, I don't know, I don't want to, how to explain, like it was a bar, a kind of a bistro bar in Zurich. I don't want to speak badly about people, but you know, this resistance of you have to give people Red Bull or coffee, and you're like, and they cannot even say thank you, they cannot even look at you, they're just with the phone in your hand, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? And this what am I doing, and the whole nagging feeling of, oh my God, something has to change, was going on already for a few years. But then I had this like colleague at work, she was working with me, and then 2019, when I had my first ayahuasca experience, everything changed so much for me. I was like before even, I was starting to read Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now, and all these spiritual new things came up, these concepts, and this universe opened up. And I told her at some point, I don't know, I don't feel like I want to be waitress anymore. Like, it does not fit for me anymore. And she was really getting angry and like, why do you think that? And you think you're something better now because you had this experience and now you have all these new things coming up for you. And I'm like, no, I just feel it's not enough. It's not it's not me. It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But she was not supporting in this moment at all. And until this point, I thought actually she was like a good friend, but we made party together, we were drinking together. And then we have coffee in the afternoon, and I told her about, not all, I told her a little bit about the experience, and I could quickly realize there was some resistance or some judgment, and especially this, you think you're something better now. And this is a really important part of who you are trusting, because let's say everybody's here and out of a sudden you start to go another way. You start to go another route. And this separates you from the herd. And automatically, so many people will think you're something better, you just always want to be alone, you not drinking alcohol anymore. Oh, you're something better now. You don't drink alcohol anymore. Are you? Like Miss Princess doesn't want to go to the club anymore because now you're something better. This is things, they're probably going to happen. Like people will judge you. They will try to keep you down because the way you're doing reflects back to them what they are not doing. And I don't say that everybody has the obligation to do the inner work, but I believe that it's somehow every soul's purpose or journey to turn inwards and discover the true self. I think that's just my humble opinion. That's part of the reason we are here, to find our true self, to find out why we are here. What is our mission? Who are we? And this quest for this journey is so precious. And other people who are not doing it, who are still in the world with all their compensations. Today it's hard to talk, I have to say. Compensation strategies, but it's hard to say. You have to admit. And so they don't like seeing you doing, it triggers them. It makes them angry, it triggers them. And these people you can quickly realize, okay, they're kind of not supporting me, or they're not really friends. Because what a friend would do, a real friend, would be first not afraid to lose you because they are fulfilled in themselves and like, okay, if I lose this person, then that's how it is. And we just had a nice time and then I lose them. It's not a loss because you cross paths with some people and then the path goes somewhere else. Maybe you meet them again, maybe not. It's the way of life. It's like we are like waves and we're kind of coming together, we're going away from each other and all this kind of stuff. So a real friend, a grown, healthy person would not be freaking out that you have some other kind of new stuff going on. They would be like, oh yeah, go explore that and maybe let's have a coffee at some point later and we can talk about this. And you see if you have like common ground and you have like common opinions or something, and you can discuss that. Or maybe you discuss something else. It doesn't matter, but a person who's supporting you would not be trying to pull you away or pull you down or criticize you or blame you or telling you think you're something better. So this was my friend, and shortly after the relationship, this friendship ended, or few months ago, there was some little weird moment that was happening when she got really, really angry, and I was like, whoa, that's okay. Let's let's just maybe leave it at that. So this was one friend. Then one other friend I thought a friend was, I was telling him some things that happened in a plant medicine ceremony. I told him the details, I told him what happened and what led to it, like the trauma that kind of was in the background and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And at this point I was already really confident in that I'm doing is right, because I kind of was working more and more or listening more and more to my own intuition, and that can never fail. It's our intuition. It's your intuition. It's the connection to higher powers. That's, you know. So I kind of was confident in the stuff that I'm doing, but I wanted to discuss the struggles that came up in the way. So like, okay, I'm having this path, but these are the struggles that came up. And I was telling the whole story, and then in the end he told me, I think you kind of your will is too strong. You're too like persistent, you're too this. And I was like, what do you mean too? My will is too strong. And this is so interesting, because how another person is in the moment judging you, and this energy of criticism comes with it, kind of like it's how you do it, it's somehow not right. This judgment that comes with it. Somehow how you do it, it's not right. You should do it with less will. Maybe was his message. And if you are not really in your balance and you're kind of still in this phase of, I don't know what's right and wrong, you can be so easily influenced from that. You're like, maybe my will is too strong. It's like what other people tell you. Like back in the days when I was 16 and people tell me my expectations were too high in regards of romantic relationships. And I was believing that my expectations are too high. By the way, the word expectation is not right, because it's more a standard. It's not an expectation, it's like a standard. And then you kind of, as a young woman, you're like, okay, maybe my standards are too high, maybe my expectations, and you lower it. And I mean, I don't want to even start to tell you where I ended up with this mindset, with this believing my standards were too high. I ended up in situations I should not at all be in. Ended up in relationships I shouldn't be in situationships I should not have been in, all because I thought my standards are too high, because I was listening to other people, basically. Because in the beginning I knew what my standards are, and that my self-worth is like, I mean, I require this and this and this, and everybody does whatever, but if that's not being met, then I'm not involving in the relationship. And this was a huge thing, I believe, for so many years, that my standards were too high, and it led me to horrible situations. And it took me years to rediscover the self-worth, and then it comes back with the whole self-worth and the requirements you can have for somebody to come into a relationship with you. So it can have a really bad impact on your evolving of your spiritual journey if you have the wrong influence. You have to be really careful. And the third story, was 2 years ago, I was starting this mindful hikes. I'm a certified holistic coach and trained outdoor coach. I like to combine these things, like the coaching with the people and doing it in nature and using things nature offers as like kind of a playground to bring the things, make them visible, what is happening in the client's world, like sticks and things you see or branches and all this kind of stuff you can use. So I was starting this thing, the mindful hikes, and I took an ex-colleague on one of these hikes. And I thought he was a friend, like he was coming from East Germany, where I was from, and we had nice conversations always, and we bonded over this common heritage, you know, East Germany and back in the day and da da da. So, and then I met with him again, and a few times before that already, I felt a bit uncomfortable in his presence because I felt his energy being really, really pulling me down. And it was interesting because after one of these mindful hikes where he was participating in, after that, I was like, actually, I don't know if I even want to do it, because the energy I felt after was not how I imagined to be, like, yay, I love it and the people love it and it's amazing and I give my knowledge and these tools and everything. I felt like I was at home, I can remember, and I was like, no, I don't know. Maybe I never want to do a mindful hike ever again. But I did not yet really understand back then. But I met him again a few months ago, and the comments he made, because I was more aware of what was happening, and he was making, you know, these subtle negative comments about maybe you should do it like this, or maybe you should do it like that. Like, how can I even explain? It's so, they kind of mask it as a good advice, but actually is something bad in it. And this conversation went on, and I don't know, after 2 hours or 3 hours, I felt like really discouraged in this conversation. I felt discouraged. I felt like I'm doing everything wrong, like financially and my planning. And I kind of started to justify myself. He said something. I was like, no, but I considered this and I had this in planning. I had this in planning. And he was like, yeah, okay, I know. I didn't know you were having all these plans already. I'm like, yeah, but why are you putting these negative things on me without even knowing my whole journey and the whole story? I don't know, I felt really bad after this meeting, and many things he said. And I decided that's toxic. And I blocked him, and not everybody has to block everybody, but it's like I did not want to have this person have any influence in my life anymore, because he was telling me, yeah, I saw some of the videos you posted on Instagram, and yeah, but I don't know, the comments were kind of negative. But then I was wondering later, he doesn't even have an Instagram account, so how did he even see these pictures? So really weird people. And, you know, I was always encouraging him, go traveling, and then he kind of followed the advice. He went traveling and came back. Is like, yeah, I don't know, I didn't like it that much. So I felt he was somebody who somehow admired me, and I don't want to brag at all. It's not about me. It's about the dynamic that happens. He was somehow admiring me, but then from the moment I started to, you know, I was leaving the company and wanted to start my own business. So I did start my own business with the mindful coaching and the nature stuff. And he was like criticizing it. And all this time I kind of thought he was for me. But in the last meeting I realized, no, he was not actually for me. He wanted not me to rise. He wanted me to stay down. And this is, I think, one of the most most important questions you can ask yourself is that thing, this retreat, this group of people, community, this person, this concept, you don't even know if you have, oh God, please forgive me. You don't even know. So all these like different concepts, you don't even need to know if these are true or not true. That's maybe not that much important if it's true or not true, because your inner truth, your inner light will recognize the truth. But in this kind of jungle of influences, feel inside, is this empowering for me? Is this something that you feel is uplifting you, or is like something that just is uplifting the idea of you? You know, the idea of like, just if you're this nice girl and you're just like really beautiful and you put like flowers in your hair and you wear this, you know, in the spiritual circles, how like just if you do yoga, then you good? Or are they supporting you anyway, however you are? And is this concept somehow empowering you? Or is it just putting an idea in your head and you have to believe it, you have to agree, otherwise you are wrong? This is also a really important part, especially with people. Are they okay with you having another opinion? And you can share different concepts and ideas. And some of them, of course, they mix and they have like a common ground, or some other is like contradicting. And when you talk about psychology, all these different terms, like Freud had different ideas than Carl Jung, for example. And you can say, I believe in this, and this is what kind of resonates with me. And then the other person said, no, that's not my experience. I had like another experience. So whatever. But you can still talk about it, and they uplift you. They support you in your journey and saying like, yeah, that's great that you discover that, and go for it. It's amazing that you're kind of on the way and you dive into your own self. And because we're so different, we cannot have exactly the same viewpoints. We cannot, because we are per se different viewpoints of consciousness. We cannot have the same, it's impossible. So when somebody's like really open, even though they had like different experiences and different opinions, and after you kind of leave the meeting, you somehow feel encouraged, you feel better, you feel empowered. And this is the most important part, is what does your gut say? What does your stomach, your like the gut feeling, the intuition, what does it say? And it can be tricky because, especially in this spiritual awakening journey, we are dealing with triggers many times, and shadow work means we are facing our shadows, and these are things that are unconscious to us before we are aware of them, of course. That's why it's called shadow work. It's in the shadow. It's not aware. It's like we don't see it. This can be challenging because you can be triggered and you can be like, get defensive. You're like, no, I'm not like that. Oh, that's not me. You're denying it. But somebody else lovingly tries to show you something. And of course, it makes your ego a little bit angry because it's not supporting your self-image of this perfect being. The perfection of your self-image gets like scratched, and nobody likes that. So you're like, triggered a little bit. But underneath this little anger about this, what you think maybe is a criticism or feedback from somebody else, underneath that, you think it's somehow empowering you. You feel the other person is trying to help you. They're trying to give you an information that could be really valuable for your journey, because we have to face our darkness. We have to face the dark stuff to grow. We cannot look away and stay on the viewpoint of I'm perfect. It doesn't help. We can, but it does not help. So if somebody is showing you, or they're holding you the mirror in any way, and it makes you angry or sad or whatever the emotion is, but underneath you kind of feel like, ah, damn it, yeah, it's something I think somehow maybe they are maybe right. And this is what makes it so confusing, like, because there's so many layers to it. But in the bottom line, underneath everything, what does your intuition say? And take your time. If somebody asks you out for a meeting, or let's go there, let's do this, da 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 da. Take your time and really feel, is that a good support? Is that somebody who, even though they don't understand me, or they're not on the same whatever page with you, are they supportive in the way that they want you to rise? They want your soul to rise, your being. They want, like, yes, whatever it takes, write a book or go traveling for 1 year, leave your job, leave your relationship, whatever it takes. They want you to find your true inner self. And this takes some discernment. And this is like a practice. It's not coming, it's like trial and error sometimes in our life. How many toxic relationships I had until I came to the point, no. Took me some years. Even in times when I thought, I get it, I got it, still I was falling in the trap again. And this is also, by the way, why meditation is so helpful, because it makes your awareness, it just raises your awareness of everything. You're feeling in a conversation, what the other person said, the community, the dynamics that happen. Is there like a guy who's like in the middle as the king, and everybody's like, oh my God, and nobody can criticize that person, because then they'd be like, ostracized and from the group or something? Is there like an environment of you cannot open your mouth and say what you think? Then it might not be that healthy. It's in my experience, whenever I'm in an environment where I feel like I cannot speak my truth, no, that's not good. That's not healthy, because we always should be able to speak our truth, to open up, even if it's kind of a so-called negative feedback to the person who is teaching you or something, or like, these power differences and whatever. So they're telling you something and you feel like, that's maybe not that right. And you say, I perceived it differently. And then they blame you and telling you, you're not advanced enough. Your consciousness is just not evolved enough. And while that may be be true, of course our consciousness learns and raises and grows, evolves. When you feel somebody's looking down on you because you're not evolved enough, for me personally, that's not healthy. And that's not a influence I would like to have in my life, because we're all equals. It doesn't matter where we stand. If you're still an alcoholic and partying, then we're still equal. Like, it's just the soul has made kind of different progress towards the inner truth. But it does not mean somebody else can tell you how another person should find this truth. Like the way that I did in these 5 years, nobody could have ever told me before that, like, this is your path and you're going to follow this. It's impossible, because I decided for myself all the steps that I'm doing. I'm going traveling alone. I'm breaking up with this. I'm reading this book. I'm leaving this book aside because it's too dogmatic for me, or too kind of, when you feel this strictly religious thing, like we praise like an idol, you know, when things get idolized and you feel something bigger is behind it. I cannot just idolize one figure when, for me personally, something much greater behind. And then the people think you didn't get it, but you're like, I don't know. So it's really a tricky topic, because I know how it is. I wanted to ask people so badly about these experiences, like how to get out of it, how, like, dark night of the soul. You're like in this kind of depression hole of, you don't know if you can, if everything is, you don't know if you're going crazy and you completely lost your mind and you're like, I'm believing in stuff that maybe not even true, and you start to discover all these areas that are connected to your past, why you ended up in this situation that you ended up in, be it like abuse, narcissism, all these kind of things. You discover that and you want to ask questions. But for me personally, there comes this time when we cannot ask questions to other humans anymore. It's just us and the universe. And this can be scary, because for many of us, we are conditioned to be around people, to have friends, to have a circle of friends. I never had a circle of friends. I just always had single friends spread all over the world. But for many years, I thought something is wrong with me because I don't have a circle of friends, and that I'm somehow not lovable because I don't have a circle of friends. It was a huge issue for me for many years. My dear friends, I'm so sorry. This is what happens when the phone creates trust issues, because it stopped recording in the middle when I was talking, or in the middle towards the end. I hope, yes, I said everything. I cannot really remember what happened after it stopped recording. And I hope you could take some message out of it. So the quintessence of the whole topic is, when it comes about trust your intuition. That's like kind of the baseline. And this is the thing that I'm always saying, because you have all the wisdom inside of you, you have all the power inside of you, even though if it's buried, even though you cannot really feel it right now, or it kind of like just got activated and it's like a process to rebuild it. But in the end, your own heart and your own being knows what feels right, what is right, and who you can trust. And you can even always dip the toes a little bit into the water and see a person like, how are they doing? Don't jump like I did so many times, oversharing, and I shared. And then it turned out the person was not really trustworthy, or in some way toxic. And then you feel like, oh my God, why did I share? Or why did I even, give this trust to that person? So people have to earn it. Places, places, communities, whatever. Look how you feel. You don't have to have all the answers, but a feeling of, is something empowering or is it pulling you down, can help a lot and prevent you from going further into situations where it's not really beneficial for you, my dears. So I wish you a really beautiful day. Let me know in the comments what came up for you, what are your experiences and questions maybe. And yes, then I will finish this video in this view over here, nice next to a nice little river. And then I hope I see you in the next video, my friends. Bye bye and namaste.